So I used to cover consumer packaged goods. And that's where I really got interested in starting my own brand. And when I thought about what I wanted to build, coffee was front of mind because of sort of my own experience growing up on the farm and having the farm relationships that I had in Kenya. And I wanted to be able to put African coffee on the map, because even though coffee is from Africa, there isn't an African coffee brand that's globally recognized. And we've now become the first Black and woman-owned coffee brand to be nationally distributed in the US. KAHAWA 1893 is a specialty coffee company. We source from women farmers in Africa, including my family's farm. And I founded the company based on my own experience growing up in Kenya on my grandfather's coffee farm. And what I observed was that women performed majority of the labor on the farm, up to 90% in Kenya. So KAHAWA 1893's mission is to empower women producers who grow the delicious coffee that we drink and make sure that they are fairly compensated. Kahawa means coffee in Swahili, which is the language that we speak in Kenya. And 1893 is the year that coffee was first commercially grown in Africa. And just to go back a little bit on the history of coffee, coffee is actually originally from East Africa. It was first brewed in Ethiopia, and then it moved to the Middle East, to Europe, and most recently to Brazil. And in 1888, when slavery ended in Brazil, coffee production was shifted back to Africa. So 1893 is when coffee was first commercially grown in Africa, and my grandfather was able to get seedlings from the colonial government, who were colonized by the British. And so he started growing coffee by getting the seedlings, and then now we're in the third generation of coffee. He's still very active in farming. I moved to the United States for college, so I got a scholarship to study in the US. And one of the cool things was when I actually got my admission, I didn't have the airfare in my community. I was able to fundraise for my airfare. And so that's one of the cool things about now being able to give back to that community. So I moved to the US, did my undergraduate. I studied economics, and during my undergrad study, I actually spent some time in London, where I studied abroad at the London School of Economics. So I really got interested in macroeconomics of the world and how the world runs. Ended up working at the World Bank. And it's during my time at the World Bank that I got interested in being able to have impact at larger scale. And after the World Bank, I went to Harvard Business School to get my MBA. And after Harvard Business School, I went to work on Wall Street. I founded KAHAWA because what I observed in the market was really two things. One of them was, even though Africa produces the best coffee in the world, we have Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania, these are recognizable. We actually didn't have a brand in the market that was able to represent the stories of farmers. And so I saw a gap where I would be able to represent the best of coffee that we have in Africa and being able to tell our stories. And the second thing for me was, the problem with coffee has always been equity, both racial representation, but also economic distribution. So farmers don't make enough from the current value chain. And so I wanted to develop a new system where we would work directly with farmers, pay them more, and also be able to engage consumers in a way that we can bring even more value to the farmer. The inspiration behind the bags was we really wanted to be able to kind of convey that we're an African brand right on the shelf. The coffee blends that we have are actually inspired by Kenya and the landscape. So our blends are named after Kenyan and African landscapes. So for example, our most popular blend, the Safari blend, is named after the Serengeti, which is the most famous national park in Africa. And the way that we did that was we have a QR code on the back of our bag where you can scan and tip farmers. And so these funds are able to flow back into the community, and really the farmers are able to invest in their community in ways that they haven't been able to before. Coffee is a commodity that trades on the stock exchange. So the prices are changing every day, and farmers don't have a reliable they don't know how much they're going to make each season, because it's dependent on coffee prices on the stock market that are affected by speculations. So one of the ways is being able to provide a stable source of income. And also, because we're a specialty coffee company, we're able to reward farmers for the quality of the coffee that they produce. So if a farmer is able to produce higher quality, they're able to get, even better pricing, and this incentivizes for farmers to invest in production. I had seen this idea of table banking, which is the way that the women bank themselves in Africa is they essentially pull their resources together, about 10 or 20 women, and they essentially go around a table. That's why it's called table banking. And they distribute this pool of money that they use as their own bank because they don't own the land. They are able to support themselves. And so the idea behind the tipping was that we could add more to that pot so that it circulates around, there's more for it to go around. That was really the initial idea that I had on how we could support women directly. It's so important to me to be able to have an African, a global brand. That pride of having something that's the best in the world. In Kenya, we actually are known as one of the best runners. We win all the marathons and we're recognized in that area. And for me, being able to put African coffee on the map in a way that was branded and I could tell my own stories directly without an intermediary is very important to me. And it's a key thing in our company. So whenever we are interacting with customers, customer service, whenever we're talking about the product, we really emphasize that what makes our product special is really this connection that we have to Africa. And African coffee is already high quality. It is not bitter, it's delicious, and it's grown by farmers who are using traditional regenerative methods in the world, in really producing the coffee and keeping the farm sustainable. Our history of fundraising is I started off bootstrapping the company off of the savings that I made working my full-time job in banking. When we got our first big order from a grocery store, which was Trader Joe's, then when I went out and fundraised from angel investors $400,000 to fill that order. One of the highest points for us was when we went on Shark Tank last year, and the episode went viral in Kenya and in Africa. And part of that was this pride that we have where we know we produce the best coffee in the world, but it hasn't been recognized. It hasn't been recognized by an African brand where we're able to tell our own stories directly. And so up to date, we've raised $750,000 that's gotten us to over $10 million in sales. After Shark Tank, after we got our $350,000 from Shark Tank, we haven't had to raise any money because we are actually profitable. So one of the key tenets of African culture is community. And I've mentioned before how my community supported my journey in coming to the United States, and I'm now in a position to support them. And they say there's an African proverb, which is that a child is actually raised by the community and not the family. So you're a product of your community. And so for us, togetherness, it's actually called Harambe. Harambe is a Swahili word that means unity. So unity and community are key tenets of African culture. And that's something that I have brought into the company. For the near future, I want to bring more innovation into the company. I had another update episode on Shark Tank earlier this year. And in that episode, one of the big announcements coming out of that was our partnership with Keurig. And that's gonna put us on a new scale of growth because Keurig is present in over 40 million households. We are gonna be launching that product this fall, and we're already taking pre-orders for that product. So we're excited for that launch, but it puts the company at a much bigger scale in terms of distribution. And now moving forward, we're looking to raise more money to support that level of growth. We've now introduced our ready-to-drink. Two versions so far that we have is a Tanzania pea berry. It's like a single origin, it's medium roast, and it's unsweetened. So it's like a really nice, healthy, low-calorie drink that you can enjoy. And then we actually have a Kenyan. We're calling it the Sweet Kenyan because we've added a little bit of sugar to it to give you like a tad bit of sweetness, but you're still getting like a low-calorie, healthy drink. And as we move forward with our innovation, one of the cool things I'm excited about is being able to bring in African ingredients and African flavors. Now surpassed $10 million in revenue, and the next hurdle for us that we want to get to is at $20 million. So I'm excited for that milestone and what it means in terms of how many farmers we can support, but also it puts us on a really good timeline to hit the 50 million and 100 million in the next couple of years, because we want to build a global company. Once we have that level of scale, we can be able to bring coffee, KAHAWA, to Africa. So we're currently only in the United States, but it would be cool to be able to bring KAHAWA to Kenya, East Africa, South Africa, and all other geographies where people have been asking for it, but we haven't had the skill to be able to bring it. So super excited for that milestone. We've seen coffee transform communities. So these economies are held together by coffee. And because of coffee's value in the global market, it's one of the ways that we're able to bring value and bring wealth back into communities. And so for me, coffee is a productive tool for me to really perform my best every day. But beyond that, it's a way that we can bring positive change into communities that grow this delicious coffee that we can't live without.